Lina had always been a dreamer. She yearned for a life filled with love, adventure, and a family of her own. When she met Victor, she thought she had found it all. He was handsome, successful, and swept her off her feet with his charm. They married young, their love a beacon of hope for the future. Their early years were blissful. Lina poured her heart into creating a warm and loving home for them. The arrival of their first child, a beautiful baby girl, filled their lives with a joy they had never known. It started subtly, a gradual erosion of their once solid foundation. Victor, always a man of high standards, became increasingly critical of Lina. He nitpicked her every move, her every decision, making her feel inadequate and small. Lina found herself walking on eggshells, terrified of saying or doing anything that might trigger his disapproval. She tried to please him, to anticipate his every need, but it was never enough. The harder she tried, the more distant he became, retreating further into his work. The arrival of Victor's mother, a formidable woman with a sharp tongue, only exacerbated the situation. The breaking point came unexpectedly, on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Lina had spent the entire day preparing for a dinner party Victor was hosting for some important clients. The evening was a disaster. Victor, preoccupied with work, barely acknowledged Lina's presence. He dismissed her attempts at conversation, ignored her contributions to the evening. As the evening wore on, Lina's frustration and resentment grew. She watched her husband, the man she had loved and trusted, transform into someone she barely recognized. The idea came to Lina like a whisper in the wind, a seed planted in the fertile ground of her desperation. She had stumbled upon an advertisement for a space travel program, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to journey beyond the confines of Earth. At first, it seemed like a ludicrous idea, a far cry from the practicalities of her current life. But the more she thought about it, the more appealing it became. Space, with its infinite expanse and celestial wonders, represented the ultimate escape. Lina knew that convincing Victor would be an uphill battle, but Lina was determined. Lina's attempts to broach the subject with Victor were met with predictable resistance. He scoffed, he argued, he dismissed her dreams as a foolish midlife crisis.
Space travel? What are you, a teenager chasing a fantasy? We have responsibilities, Lina, a family to think about. This is nothing but a selfish indulgence.
His words stung, but Lina refused to back down. For once she stood her ground, her voice surprisingly steady as she countered his arguments. It's not selfish to want something for myself, Victor. The initial launch had been a whirlwind of noise and G-forces, a physical manifestation of my internal turmoil. But as the spacecraft ascended through the layers of the atmosphere, leaving Earth behind, a profound sense of peace settled over me. Life on board the spacecraft was a strange mix of rigorous schedules, technical briefings, and moments of breathtaking beauty. I threw myself into the training, my body growing stronger, my mind sharper with each passing day. I reveled in the camaraderie of my fellow travelers, a diverse group of dreamers and adventurers. The weight of Victor's disapproval, the whispers of doubt from my family and friends, faded into the background noise of my new reality. For the first time in years, I was free from the constant pressure of expectations. There were moments, of course, when the weight of my decision threatened to pull me back down to Earth. Moments when the silence of space felt less like freedom and more like isolation. Guilt, like a persistent weed, would try to take root in the fertile ground of my loneliness. Had I been selfish? Had I abandoned my family for a fleeting dream? The questions would circle relentlessly. But then I would look out at the stars, their light, ancient and unwavering, a reminder that the universe held both darkness and light. I would remind myself that this journey was not a rejection of my family, but an affirmation of myself. I would write in my journal, pouring my thoughts and feelings onto the page. The routine of space travel, with its carefully scheduled days and predictable patterns, was abruptly shattered one afternoon during a routine systems check. I had been engrossed in a training module, my mind focused on the intricacies of orbital mechanics, when a voice, laced with urgency, crackled over the intercom.
Attention all personnel, we have an unexpected visitor on board. Please remain calm and report to your designated assembly areas.
Confusion rippled through the spacecraft, whispers of speculation replacing the usual hum of activity. My heart pounded with a mixture of curiosity and a growing sense of dread as I joined my fellow travelers in the main assembly area. And then, as if materialized from my darkest fears, he appeared.
What do you think you're doing? Running away from your family, your responsibilities? Did you really think you could escape me? Escape what we have?
Attention all personnel, we are encountering unexpected turbulence, a high-energy solar flare. Please proceed to your designated emergency pods immediately. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill.
Come on, we have to get out of here.
A fragile hope.
Lina scrambled into the cramped confines of the escape pod, her heart still pounding against her ribs.
I'm right behind you.
Victor followed close behind, sealing the hatch with a resounding clang that echoed the finality of their situation. They were adrift, hurtling through the vastness of space, their fate uncertain.
Oh, this is really happening.
The pod shuddered violently, buffeted by the relentless assault of the solar storm. Lina braced herself against the wall, her knuckles white as she gripped the safety harness. Victor sat across from her, his face pale in the dim emergency lighting, his gaze fixed on the control panel.
Are we going to be okay?
Lina asked, her voice barely a whisper above the roar of the storm. Victor looked at her, his expression unreadable. And for a moment, she saw a flicker of the man she had fallen in love with, the man who had promised her the world.
I don't know, but we're going to fight to survive, for them.
He added, his gaze softening as he gestured towards the small photo of their children taped to the wall.
A glimmer of understanding.
And fight they did. For what felt like an eternity, they worked side by side. Their movements synchronized, their purpose singular survival. Victor, his usual composure shaken, relied on Lina's quick thinking and resourcefulness. Lina, in turn, found herself drawing strength from Victor's determination, his unwavering focus on getting them home.
Keep an eye on the oxygen levels.
Got it. Hand me that tool.
They spoke little, their words reduced to essential commands and terse updates on their dwindling resources. But in the shared glances, the unspoken understanding that flowed between them as they navigated each crisis, a new dynamic began to emerge.
We can do this.
Together.
The anger, the resentment, the years of accumulated hurt seemed to fade into the background noise of their desperate struggle for survival. In their shared vulnerability, their shared humanity, they glimpsed a reflection of the couple they had once been, the couple they might still become.
Maybe there's hope for us after all.
As the storm finally began to subside, its fury spent, a fragile hope took root in Lina's heart. Maybe, just maybe, this ordeal, this brush with oblivion, had cracked open something inside Victor, something that would allow them to rebuild, to rediscover the love that had been buried under layers of anger and regret.
Silence descended upon the escape pod, heavy and profound. The storm, like our tumultuous relationship, had finally abated. Left in its wake was a wreckage of emotions and a fragile hope for something new to bloom.
Lina looked at me, truly looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. Stripped bare of my usual composure, my arrogance replaced with vulnerability, I seemed smaller, almost fragile.
We made it, I whispered, my voice hoarse from unshed tears and the strain of the ordeal.
I nodded, a ghost of a smile touching my lips. We did, I echoed, my voice rough with emotion. I reached out, tentatively, my fingers brushing hers.
It was a simple touch, devoid of the possessiveness that had come to define their relationship, and yet it sent a jolt through Lina.
For the remainder of our journey back to Earth, a strange sort of peace settled over us. We spoke in hushed tones, sharing stories of our childhoods, our dreams, our regrets.
It was as if, stripped of the distractions and demands of our lives on Earth, we were finally able to see each other clearly, to recognize the pain we had inflicted, the love that still flickered beneath the surface.
Victor confessed his fear of failure, the pressure he had put upon himself to be the perfect provider, the perfect husband, the perfect father.
I spoke of my own insecurities, the ones I had masked with arrogance and control.
I listened, my heart heavy with a mix of sadness and understanding. I saw, perhaps for the first time, the frightened boy hiding behind the facade of the successful man, the boy who desperately craved love and acceptance. As Earth grew larger in the viewport, no longer a distant blue marble but a vibrant tapestry of life, a sense of melancholy washed over me.
The journey that had started as an escape was ending with a sense of homecoming, not to the life she had left behind, but to a new understanding of herself, her needs, her desires.
I had faced my fears, my doubts, and emerged stronger, more resilient than I ever thought possible. The woman who had boarded the spacecraft, lost and broken, was gone. In her place stood a woman who had stared into the abyss and found her own strength, her own voice.
Victor, too, seemed changed by their ordeal. The arrogance that had once been his defining trait was gone, replaced by a quiet humility, a newfound respect for Lina and her strength.
I no longer tried to control her, to dictate her choices. Instead, I listened, truly listened, as she spoke of her dreams, her aspirations, the life she wanted to create for herself.
He apologized for his past behavior, his words heartfelt and sincere. He acknowledged the pain he had caused, the damage he had inflicted on our relationship.
I spoke of wanting to change, to become a better man, a better husband, a better father.
I listened, my heart torn between the desire to believe him, to embrace the possibility of a future together, and the knowledge that some wounds cut too deep to ever truly heal. The landing was rough, a jarring return to reality after the ethereal calm of space. As I stepped out of the escape pod and onto the tarmac, the familiar sense of earth and grass filled my senses, grounding me, reminding me of my connection to this planet, to my children.
Her children. The thought of them sent a wave of longing through her. She ached to hold them, to feel their small arms around her, to reassure herself that they were real, that this whole experience hadn't been some strange cosmic dream.
I stood beside her, my hand hovering near hers, a silent question in my eyes.
I met his gaze, my own emotions a tangled mess of hope, fear, and a deep, abiding love for the man who had broken my heart and, in the process, forced me to find my own strength.
She had journeyed to the stars seeking escape, seeking a chance to rediscover herself. She had found what she was looking for, but not in the vastness of space. She had found it within herself, in the depths of her own resilience, her own capacity for love and forgiveness.
As I stood on the precipice of my future, the weight of my journey settled upon me. The vast expanse of space, once a symbol of escape, now represented the infinite possibilities that lay before me.
She had touched the face of the universe and returned with a newfound understanding of her own strength, her own desires. The woman who had once sought solace in the stars now found herself drawn to the warmth of human connection, the enduring power of love, even in its most flawed and fragile forms.
I stood before her, a changed man, my eyes reflecting the depth of my transformation. The arrogance that had once been a barrier between us was gone, replaced by a quiet humility, a newfound respect for the woman Lina had become.
He offered her his hand, not in possession, but in partnership, a silent plea for a second chance, a chance to navigate the complexities of their relationship with honesty and vulnerability.
My heart ached with a bittersweet symphony of emotions. The love I had once felt for Victor, buried under layers of hurt and resentment, stirred within me, a flicker of warmth in the vast emptiness he had created. But alongside that love lived a newfound sense of independence, a fierce determination to live a life defined by my own terms, not by the expectations of others.
The decision was hers to make, a choice that would shape not only her future but the future of her family. Would she allow Victor's transformation to rekindle the embers of their love, to rebuild from the ashes of their past? Or would she choose a different path, one that led her away from the familiar comfort of their shared history and towards the unknown horizon of her own rediscovered dreams.